What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and I'm here to take you through the most comprehensive NBA player prop you have ever seen. That's a lie. It probably isn't. But if it's your first time watching this channel, I do this every single night. I share my screen, we go through outlier, I tell you what I like, I tell you what I don't, we look at form lines, all that type of jazz, and I do all that to help you make the best bets possible. Didn't work for me yesterday. I honestly thought I was going to have the worst betting day of my entire life. We're getting absolutely swept. I read the Cleveland game completely wrong. Following game didn't get too much better, but luckily pretty strong picks in that Lakers game, which kind of lessened the damage. So it wasn't too bad, but a losing day nonetheless. I learned a few things from today's games. These game 3 games can get a little bit tricky, but learn a few lessons. Hopefully we can take them into the picks for this upcoming slate. Before we jump into the preview, I'll remind you that we do have a watch party. That is myself, Josh from Land Your Bets. We're doing a watch party, so click on that link in the video description below. It's for Playback TV, completely free to sign up. I'll be streaming the Clippers versus Mavericks game with Josh. We'll be on stage chopping it up. You guys can chat to us, ask all the questions you like, but it's going to be a fun one, so don't miss it. Now, let's get into the preview, shall we? Let's go. All right, so jumping into the Bucks versus Pacers up first. In this game, first game in Indiana, total point line's 221. The Pacers are 6-point favorites in this one. That line definitely moving towards Indiana. Giannis, really unlikely to play, and Chris Middleton, he's also a game time decision in this one. So I think factor that in when you make your bets. The one mistake that I didn't plan for today when looking at Cleveland versus Orlando, I didn't factor in that the Orlando Magic were going to belt the Cavaliers. Now, I'm not saying that this game is going to be a belting, but a lot of money coming in for the Pacers. They're already favorites. That line continues to grow. I'd be cautious when betting on the Bucks players is all I'm going to say. But let's jump to the preview. I'm going to try to rattle this off a little bit quicker than the other ones, purely because I want to have a somewhat early night tonight so that I can get up early to do this watch party with you guys. So let's jump into it. Starting with these Indiana Pacers at home. Let's go with Pascal Siakam. He's been an absolute beast these playoffs. In the first 2 games of this series, 36 and 37 points up against the Milwaukee Bucks. He wasn't performing that way at the end of the regular season, and then playoff Siakam came and he started belting it. 36 and 37 points, 40 and 37 minutes. 25 and 23 shot attempts. So his shot attempts are really high and his field goal percentage is excellent. So absolutely smoking the Bucks. Now, the question is, can he continue to do it? Because his line's only at 27.5 here. At Indiana, you expect Siakam and all of his mates to play better. But I guess the one you need to factor in is, why doesn't this hit? This won't hit if other Pacers happen to start popping off and Pascal Siakam doesn't have to carry this offense. So I guess keep that in mind if you do make that decision. I'm not sure where I've landed on it. It's too easy to say that he's smashed him in the first 2 games. He's going to continue to crush it, right? That's just such a simple way of looking at it. We don't know if he's going to take 25 to 23 shots, and we don't know how well these other Pacers players are going to turn up in this game. Taking a look at his assist prop, 3.5 is the line. He's cashed this in 2 out of his last 10 games. The 2 games against Milwaukee since he's joined them, 2 assists, and then followed up by 6 assists. Now, his assist prop might be something I can get around for this next game. He's clearly been smoking the Bucks. They need to do something differently. They can't just let him get it off as much as he wants. So the assist prop, my basketball mind, to me, it's probably not such a bad play, but I need to do some more research into that, which I will do. And if you're brave, they'll be in the pinned comment below the video description. Looking at his rebound prop now, 10.5, similar to his points line, been killing it. 13 and 11 boards in the 2 games this series. In his last 10 games, he's only hit times, which isn't great, but the 2 games against the Bucks, you could say, are most important. Now, video play that you look at as well. So you could look at his rebounds plus assists, really, and I say that because the Bucks are on the road. They are underdogs. You would assume that means the Bucks don't play as well as they have been potentially. Or if you look at their other loss in the first game, the second game, Siakam got 11 boards in that one. So yeah, it depends how you really slice it, really. You got to look into rebound chances, his minutes and stuff. But I don't hate the rebounds and assists look. If we have a look at his rebounds and assists, 14.5 is the line. It's plus money. He had 15 in the first game and then 17 in the last game. So it actually feels a little bit high when you look at it all together. So I'm not sure how I feel about Pascal Siakam. I feel what I am thinking about is like, have I missed the boat? Like, has he already played those good games? When do we start to see regression? Because that what he's been doing as of late, that's not what Pascal Siakam does. He wasn't hitting those numbers in Toronto. So there's going to be a point where he does regress, and he might be someone that you just choose not to bet on because you missed the ship. Well, that's what I'm thinking anyway. The next one I'll talk through is TJ McConnell. Now, he does come off the bench, but there's a lot of green on his graphs, and he's a very aggressive little bastard. So his point sign's at 7.5. He's cashed this in 8 of his last 10 games. So far in this playoffs, he's cashed it 1 out of 2. So he had 10 points in the first game, followed up by 6 points in the second game. In both of those games, pretty low minutes, 18 and 16 minutes, 13 and 6 shot attempts. So the shot attempts is probably the only worry. So I think we saw two sides to TJ McConnell here. The most aggressive version who took 13 shots in about 18 minutes. And then a version you can probably, the weaker version of TJ McConnell, where he shot the ball 6 times in 16 minutes. So there's two sides to it, but this line is quite low. Does shoot a very high percentage, over 50%, because he doesn't take threes. So his field goal percentage is there. In order to see him cash this 7.5, you'd probably need about 8 shots here from TJ McConnell. So I don't think that's such a bad play. And if we look at his assist prop, 3.5 is the line. He's cashed this in 8 of his last 10. 1 of 2 games this series. So the game where the Pacers won, 4 assists. The game where they lost, he only got the 1. So what I'm thinking is points plus assists could be a play here for TJ McConnell. It's 11.5, but he did go under in both games. So I'm going to take that back. I don't think that. I think the points prop is a little bit better than the assist prop. But I'll leave it up to you to figure out if you decide to play it. Obviously, towards the end of the season, he was smoking it. This is all just dependent on minutes. Now, we can't guarantee he gets a lot of minutes here. They are at home after all. The bench players could get more time and they could also play better, right? So I think that really leans in the direction of a positive TJ McConnell game. If you're interested in his boards, his line's at 2.5, but yeah, there's not too much edge here because he looks like a 50-50 hit. He's hit this line at 50% of the games this season. He went under in both games so far this series. So I've got no strong leans on that one. We have Tyrese Halliburton. His points line is 16.5. He's cashed this in 5 of his last 7 games against the Bucks. So prior to the playoffs, Tyrese Halliburton was a machine. He was killing the Bucks. He was scoring like at will. I actually bet his points were up in the first game and he finished with 9. I was too scared to run it back, and thankfully I didn't because then he scored 12 points. The biggest concern here with Tyrese Halliburton is not the minutes. He's playing a lot of minutes, 38 and 37 minutes. It's his shot attempts. He shot the ball 7 times in the first game and then only 10 times in the second game. So at that volume, at 10 shots, he's not going to get close to this line of 16.5. So I think that's the main question you got to ask yourself. Is he going to get up enough shots in order to cover this line? So I'm a little bit uncertain about it. I did a bit of Googling, any articles, Twitter updates, and there's nothing on Tyrese Halliburton. I'm looking for something where it says, Tyrese says, I'm going to be more aggressive in game 3, or I know I need to take more shots, or something, a positive affirmation that he's going to get after it today. And I wasn't able to find anything there for Tyrese. But let's have a look at his assist prop. The line's at 10.5. He's covered this in 4 of 7 games against the Milwaukee Bucks. So far in this series, 8 and then 12 assists for Tyrese Halliburton. Now, the potential assists are there. He's moving the rock around like crazy. It's just really dependent on his team making shots or not. So in the first game, Pacers, their offense sucked. Tyrese Halliburton still had 20 potential assists, but the Pacers only scored 94 points. The second game, we kind of saw something that we expected. 233 points combined, these two teams, and that's what you would expect. The first fastest offense versus the 4th fastest offense. So there should be a lot of pace and points when these two teams meet. That first game, there could have been a little bit of nerves. Who knows? But I think the second game, the one we just had, is one that you should expect to see a lot more. So even though the odds here for Tyrese Halliburton are pretty ass, 10.5 at -130, I don't think those are great odds. I think the play is a good one. His assists, again, the Pacers are favored to win this, and they should be able to score a whole lot of points. And based on how things are going this series, Tyrese Halliburton, pass first point guard, is exactly what he is. So if he's passing first, those buckets shall come. Now let's have a look at Miles Turner. Now, I did have him as a lead in the last game to go over his points prop. I didn't take the bet, and I should have, because he scored 22 points. He has now covered this line in 6 of his last 10 games against the Bucks. This playoff series, he scored 17 and 22 points. For this game, his line is at 19.5, though. It's gone up a few points since that last game. Minutes wise, pretty consistent, 32 and 34 minutes. Shot attempts 17 and 15. So he shot 60% from the field in that last game. He made 3 3-pointers in both games against the Bucks, which is pretty juicy. So his 3-point prop, that could be a good look. Let's have a look at that one. Line's at 2.5, though. It is plus money if you take the 3-pointers. But how often is Miles Turner going to hit 3-pointers in a row? I feel like that's quite unlikely. That points prop is a little bit too high for my liking. So let's check his rebound prop. Now the line's at 8.5. He's cashed 8.5 in 2 of his last 10 games against the Milwaukee Bucks. On the season, he's covered 8.5 in only 28% of games. So very low hit rate here for Miles Turner. That's why you're getting plus money. If you did look at the under, it's minus 135, but the under has cash in both games in so far this playoffs. It's cashed in 8 of his last 10 games against the Milwaukee Bucks. It's cashed in 8 of his last 10 games on the season. And it's also cashed in 58 of 80 games on the year. 73% hit rate on Miles Turner's under in points. So, yeah, that could be a good look. I know that the Pacers are favorites to win this game. But if we use another example where the Pacers won, 125 to 108 against the Milwaukee Bucks. In that game, Miles Turner only had 7 rebounds. So just because the Pacers are winning and the Bucks are probably bricking more shots than they make, doesn't mean that Miles Turner is going to be the man to get the board. So, yeah, I think the under 8.5 could be a good look there. The odds, probably not so great. All right, let's jump into these Milwaukee Bucks and see if we can find some juice. We'll kick it off with Brook Lopez. Now, Giannis extremely unlikely to play on this one, so we might have to play with some filters, but let's take a look at it. His line's at 13.5. He's covered in 7 out of his last 10 games against the Indiana Pacers. Last 2 games in these playoffs, 11 points in game 1, 22 points in game 2 in less minutes. So he played 32 and 29 minutes in these 2 games, 10 and 13 shot attempts. What's different in that very last game, he shot 6 from 7 for 3. Which is not a common occurrence. So a bit of an outlier there to see Brook Lopez score 22 points. The line hasn't moved too much, still 13.5. So he has had big games against him before. I wonder what his games are like with and without Giannis. So this is his games without Giannis against the Pacers. So he's covered this line in 2 or 3 games, averaging 17.3 points. And then with Giannis against the Pacers, averaging 14.1 points against them, covering in 5 out of his last 7. So, yeah, I think he's capable of hitting this with or without Giannis. I don't feel like it's a big difference maker for Brook Lopez. It really just comes down to shooting percentage, I think, because if he's making shots, he's going to take more of them. Now, he's just had a big game. Chances are the Pacers come out and say, we're not going to let that happen anymore, right? We're not going to let Brook Lopez shoot 6 from 7 from downtown. So, I think I'd be a little bit hesitant to look at that. His 3-point line's at 1.5, despite that freak show of a game where he hit 6. I wouldn't take the over, that's for sure. The under, though, plus money, plus 145. But has only cashed in 4 of his last 10 against Indiana. So, yeah, I'd be a little bit cautious looking at Brook Lopez. His rebounds, what do we see? 5.5's the line. 2 of his last 10. 4 of his last 10 against the Pacers. So 5 straight games he's gone under this rebound line. Without Giannis, he's gone under in his last 2 games against them. So in a game in Indiana where Pacers are favored, I think the under could be a good look here for Brook Lopez. The value is not great on it, though, but, it has a good success rate. 7 consecutive games he's gone under this rebound line. And in head-to-head matchups, 7 consecutive games with Giannis out of the lineup, he's gone under this line. And with Giannis in the lineup, he's gone under in 5 consecutive games now. So, yeah, the under could be a good look here for Brook Lopez. Not a fun play, though. 6 rebounds, that's a real sweaty bet because he could get a lot of those in 5 minutes, right? So the challenge is he hasn't been getting a lot lately. He's averaging 9.3 rebound chances in his last 10. And against the Pacers, averaging 10 rebound chances. So he really needs to get 6 rebounds from 10 chances by the looks of it. If we look at just the season to see what his numbers look like, 5.1 rebounds per game on 10 rebound chances. So he'd need to get 1 extra rebound more than he normally would. So it could be a good play at minus 130. I'm not loving it, to be honest, but the numbers do look good for that. All right, next up, we're going to take a look at Chris Middleton. He is a game time decision, though. So Chris Middleton, right ankle sprain. So be a little bit cautious if you're looking at Middleton. Now, these are his games against Indiana. So his line's at 18.5. He's covered in 5 of his last 9 games against Indiana. In his last 10 games, he's covered in 4 of his last 10. So far this series, scored 23 points in game 1 with the Bucks won, scored 15 points with the Bucks lost in that second game. Looking at his minutes, 34 and 36 minutes. He's taken 14 shots in both games. In the first game, he shot a very high 64%. Not shooting great from 3, but he got to the line a little bit as well. So 18.5 points pretty much puts you smack bang in the middle of what he's been pretty close to what he's been averaging this series. Now, in this particular game, I think it's going to be closer than the last game, but I do think the Pacers are going to win this one at home. Bucks have been pretty poor on the road all season. So, out of curiosity, I just want to check Middleton's numbers on the road. So, against Indiana on the road this year, he did score 19 points. Last 10 road games, he's averaging 16.3. So, on the season, he's averaging 15.5 points per game on the road. Overall, 15.1. So Chris Middleton not so much impacted whether he's home or away. Scoring averages look very much the same. If we look at his games without Giannis, what do we see? He's only played 2 games without Giannis against the Pacers, believe it or not, and those are these playoff series, so a very small sample size. But yeah, I'd probably lean to the under on this one for Chris Middleton, purely because I'm liking. Oh, this is the line movement, so that's pretty cool. I haven't clicked this button before. So what is this telling us? So the line up at 17.5, and it's moved up to 18.5. At one point it moved to 19.5, back down to 18.5. So a lot of bettors having a lot of fun with this. But yeah, Chris Middleton. There's a lot of bets going both ways, overs and unders. It's at 18.5 at the moment as we speak. I'll personally lean to the under at minus 102. Not a fun bet, and I probably won't take it, but it has hit in 67% of games this year. Games without Giannis, the under is hit in 56% of games, and it's hit in 50% of games this series. I don't think he shoots 64% here against Indiana. His injury may slow him down as well. He's only taking 14 shots a game, so keep that in mind. So I do think he goes under the 18. I think he lands somewhere around the 15 as well. So I'm going to take a look at that, put that on my short list, see what we come up with. Jumping into his assists now, 5.5 is the line. He's covered in 5 of his last 9 games against the Pacers. In his last 10, 7 out of his last 10. So pretty decent assist numbers so far this season. 4 out of his last 6. Not the hell was that? 4 in the first game and then 6 in the second game in terms of his assists. It doesn't seem like his assist numbers are correlated to winning. Average assists, potential assists 7.9. So he's got a pretty high ratio there. I think this line is just about right. Chris Middleton does hover between 4 and 6 quite a lot. So on the road against Indiana, I don't know if I could take that. Let's just take a look at his road games. 3 road games against Indiana, covering in 1 of 3. His last 10 road games, though, 7 out of his games on the road, he's covered the assist line. So, yeah, I'm not too keen on that. Rebound-wise, lines at 6.5, 4 of his last 10, 3 out of his last 9 against Indiana, had 10 rebounds in game 1. Pacers only scored 94 points, so a lot of rebound chances, I assume. And in the second game, when they scored 125, Chris Middleton only finished with 5 boards. So, yeah, I think I'd probably lean to the under just a bit. But given the under leans, it could be something that we maybe check points plus rebounds. So in terms of matchup, the Pacers, not very good in terms of allowing points. They allow a lot of points and rebounds to the small forward position. But at 25.5, you can see that he's gone under in 7 out of his last 9 games against the Pacers. So hasn't performed overly well. The games where he's gone over his rebound line, he's gone over his points line, except for this game here, actually. But still, when these two combine, points plus rebounds, he hasn't been able to hit. There's been some games where he's covered his points line, like this game and this game, covered his points line against the Pacers, but didn't cover his rebounds line and ultimately fell under. So it looks like the points plus rebounds probably serve better than just his points or just his rebounds alone. So that's going to be one that I look into. We shall see. Fading the fish face. But let's jump into somebody else. Who do we have? Damian Lillard. Now, Dame's points line, 31.5, has had 2 straight games above 30 points against the Pacers, 35 and 34. over his last games. His last 10 games, 3 out of his last 10 he's covered. And in head-to-head matchups, these 2 games in the playoffs are the only games where Dame has gone over his points line. Now, obviously, he's doing it all without Giannis. So great numbers without Giannis against the Pacers. In his last 10 games without Giannis, he's covered in 6 out of his last 10. That's pretty much 10. He's played 10 games without Giannis this season. So 6 out of his last 10, averaging 30.8 points per game. Now, the Pacers, they're meant to be great at the stopping point guards from scoring, but they haven't been able to slow Dame. It's very much the same story. In the first half, Dame's been going absolutely nuts. They slow him down in the second half. So whatever adjustments they're making at halftime, they need to put those adjustments in place at the start of the game to stop this guy from going off. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say he goes under, purely because we saw the same trends here with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell was lighting up the Magic in games 1 and 2, and in both of those games, a lot of damage was done in the first quarter. As soon as the games flipped, game went into Orlando, Donovan Mitchell absolutely struggled, and we might see something similar here. The Pacers are much better at home than they are on the road as well, and hopefully they devised a plan to slow down Dame Darla. So, yeah, I'm leaning Dame's under in his points. His assist line, I did take his under in assists in the very last game. The line has been at 6.5 all series. And if we dive a little bit deeper, what do we see? 3 out of his last 10 games he's covered. The 2 games in the playoffs so far, 3 and 5 assists, 38 and 39 minutes. So the minutes have been there. The potential assists are quite low. His assist numbers actually drop off without Giannis. So, yeah, I don't mind the under in his assists again, but the odds for it are absolutely shot. Minus 120. Not as good as they were last time. I think I got plus money for it before. Given the consistent unders here for Dame, yeah, the odds are kind of shot down a little bit. But yeah, I'll still probably lean to the under there for Dame. I'm not keen on taking the same play back to back though, but I'll leave it up to you. You may like it. Taking a look at his rebound line, 4.5, 6 of his last 10. He's covered in 3 of his last 6 against Indiana. He's averaging 5 boards a game against them. In this playoff series, 6 and 4 rebounds for Dame. 6 rebounds in the win, 4 rebounds in the loss. The game now moves to Indiana. Last time he played in Indiana, he only had 2 boards in that game. High scoring game, probably not as many rebound opportunities. But Dame, he's not seeing too many more minutes than he normally does. So it's not like his numbers are elevated in the playoffs. Minutes and opportunities are very much the same. So for his rebounds, I'm not overly keen on making any plays on that, but you might be able to find some value in that. All right, let's quick look. I'm mumbling all over the place. So let's take a quick look at Bobby Portis. Now his points line is 16.5. He's somebody that I backed the first game. A lot of people backed the second game looking for redemption. Did not hit. Bobby Portis, his points line 16.5. Got a great record without Giannis, but has struggled so far this series. Scored 15 and 14 points in the last 2 games. He's 2 of 10 in the last 10 games against the Indiana Pacers. Now let's take a look at the last 2 games. 30 minutes in each game, pretty decent. 15 and 16 shots, pretty decent as well. Unfortunately, only shooting 47 and 38% from the field. Yet to hit a 3-pointer as well. This definitely could be a game where he bounces back, but he's really running out of time without Giannis. And if you check out his numbers without Giannis on the season, 11 games without Giannis, averaging 19.6 points per game. So prior to this 2 games against the Indiana Pacers, he had covered in 9 out of not 9. What am I talking about? 7 out of his last 9 without Giannis in the lineup. Coming up the Indiana Pacers, who are really weak against power forwards, you would have thought Bobby Portis would be eaten, but my man still hasn't. So it's still a good look. He's been getting very close to it. If he shoots the same volume in this game that he normally does, there's a good chance he cashes because you're really just relying on field goal percentage, but so far he hasn't delivered. His rebound prop, though, an interesting one, 10.5. Now, taking a look, he's had 11 rebounds in both games against the Pacers in this series. 11 and 11. Win or lose, he's getting the same number of rebounds. 30 minutes per game. The 10.5 at minus 125. I think the line is just about right. Sometimes you can get at 11.5 if you like the under. It's very spot on to me, this line. So I'm not particularly fascinated by it, but if you like what you see, go ahead and take it. But before I jump anywhere else, I think Pat Beverley is an interesting one. I want to share this with you because I'm leaning on taking the under in his PRA. Let me just quickly jump to the PRA. Now we can see that his PRA is 16.5. He's gone. Let's look at the under. He's cashed the under in 6 of the last 10 and 75% of games this year. But he is playing over 30 minutes a night. So if we filter his games out this season where he's played at least 30 minutes, What do we for Pat Bev? He's only gone under in 3 of his last 10, actually. So I don't know why the hell I'm looking at the under. I did research about 4 hours ago into this, and I saw some. Actually, it's not his PRA. I think it's rebound plus assists. I think it's his rebounds plus assists. Under 9.5. So this first game against the Pacers, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. Bit of a. I thought that was an outlier, but if I look at the games over 30 minutes, he's cashed in 6 of his last 10. So actually, I take that back. It might have been an over. I just wrote his name down in the PRA, but I don't know why I was looking at it. So I apologize for wasting your time. Let's jump into the next game. It's the Dallas Mavericks, Los Angeles Clippers. Reminder: watch party tomorrow. Playback TV. Click on that link in the video description. Sign up. It's completely free, and then you can join the watch party with me and Josh from Lanyard. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. So let's take a look at this. Firstly, in terms of lineups, Kawhi Leonard, game time decision, but he looks like he'll play. Got through the last game unscathed. Daniel Gafford, a game time decision, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is out as well for the Mavericks. So that weakens them a little bit. But still, Dallas minus 4.5 point favorites in this game, which I think is probably too large for my liking, given the fact that Hardaway is not there and there's a chance Gafford may not play, and Kawhi Leonard is back, game under his belt. I think it'll be a lot closer than that. So there could be some value on the Clippers, but I don't bet sides and totals. So let's talk about player props, shall we? We'll start with the Los Angeles Clippers. We'll go from top to bottom. We'll start with Kawhi Leonard. Now, second game back from injury. His points line is at 22.5. He has covered this in 4 out of his last 7 matchups against the Dallas Mavericks. In his last 10 games, he's covered in 6 of his last 10, averaging 22.7. Now, let's take a closer look at that last game against Dallas. He played 35 minutes. He took 17 shots, only hit on 41% of his shots. He was 0 from 5 from downtown, which is difficult. Probably doesn't have his legs under him. Now, if you're someone who believes that he's better after that one run, that he should be a lot better in this game, go ahead and take the over. But if you're someone who thinks that having 4 weeks off, or almost 4 weeks, about 3.5 weeks off, not playing basketball, didn't have any contact sessions in practice that whole time until the game started, and it's going to take him a little bit longer to find his feet, you may want to look at the under in the points line here for Kawhi Leonard. I personally would need to look into it a bit further because the volume was there. He's hit on this type of volume before, but he really relies on efficiency, and he might be better after that one game. So, yeah, I'm personally not leaning either way. I'm just going to watch and see. Now, looking at his assists, line's at 2.5. He's cashing 5 of his last 10. Had 2 assists in that last game against Dallas. It was a low-scoring game. The total for this game is 210, so it's projected to be a higher scoring game than the last game, which obviously fell under 200 points. So if there is more scoring opportunities, then the assist prop could be there for Kawhi Leonard, but at minus 142, I don't think anyone's mad enough to play that. Looking at his rebound line, that's at 5.5, minus 120. Had 7 rebounds in that last game. And looking at head-to-head matchups, pretty good rebounding numbers here for Kawhi Leonard. 5 out of his last 7 games against the Mavericks, he's gone over this rebound line. So I think after playing that game, he might be able to get more minutes under him, might lead to more opportunities. So I don't hate the rebound line here for Kawhi Leonard, more than capable of doing it. If Gafford doesn't get to go, there's a lot of Maxey and Derek Lively. Maxey's on the court. They really stretch the floor with him, so Zubac may not be the primary rebounder in a lot of those situations. So Kawhi Leonard, we might be able to find some juice with that play. I just hope I'm not overthinking all of these bets. But yeah, that's where my mind goes for Kawhi Leonard. Let's have a look at James Harden. Now, James Harden, his points line is 17.5. He's cashed in both games this series, 28 and 22 points. On the season, he's hit this line at a 42% hit rate, which is not good. And in his last 10 games, 4 out of the last 10. But the last 2 games against Dallas, probably the ones that mean the most. 28 and 22 points so far this series. 39.4 and 42 minutes per game. 17 and 14 shot attempts. 6 from 11 in the first game. Follow that up with 2 from 10. So the volume is there for 3-pointers. And he's getting to the line quite nicely. So James Harden on the road. I don't know if a lot of these star players are really affected by home and away. So he's averaging 16. Yeah, his averages pretty much stay the same, home and away. It doesn't change too much. Yeah, look, how could you not go the over on this for James Harden? Because the volume is there with and without Kawhi. Getting a lot of 3-point attempts up. shot 20% in that last game. If we have a look at the season, actually, out of curiosity, he's shooting 38% from downtown. So that 20% that he shot in that last game, definitely lower than what he's capable of producing. If you're looking at his 3-point line, it's at 2.5. Now, he's only cashed this in 41% of games this year. And against the Dallas Mavericks this season, he only cashed it once, and that was that first game of the playoffs. So, yeah, look, it can definitely happen. I'm just not seeing the trends in order to make it happen. Now, looking at his assist prop, 7.5, he cashed this in both games, 8 and 8. In the first game, the line was at 9.5. He went under. The second game, the line was at 8.5. Now the Clippers are on the road. It moves down to 7.5. And are you man enough to take it? Possibly. Yeah, he's hit this line at 65% of the games he's played this year. If we look at the games this year on the road, he's hit this in 61% of the games on the road, averaging 8.2 assists. Against the Dallas Mavericks this season, let's take a look. He's hit this in 3 of 5 games against Dallas. One of those games on the road where he had 11 assists. Highest scoring game, total hit 230. So projected at 210 in this game. So probably a very similar type of number to the first game where he did have 8 assists. Now, you might want to look at his season with Kawhi Leonard in the lineup to see how it impacts his assists. So on the season, 8.51 as an average. With Kawhi Leonard, it's still 8.5. So with and without Kawhi Leonard, it doesn't necessarily change James Harden's assist numbers too much. Still the primary ball handler anyway, creating the most opportunities. So yeah, minus 135, I'd probably lean to the over, but it's not a bet that I am willing to take. Looking at his rebound line, 5.5. Cashed this in the second game with 6 boards. That was, however, a low-scoring game. In the other 4 games against Dallas this season, he has gone under. So for this, the under's playing 130. The under's hit at 62% of games this year. If we look at his minutes, what's he doing? At least 39 minutes. We can look at his season, break it down by 39 minutes as a minimum. And this year he's played 11 games with at least that many minutes, and the under 5.5 rebounds has cash of 11 games. So yeah, I'd probably lean to the under here for James Harden, but it is minus 130 odds. So not very strong odds in this one, but the numbers are there. So look, that's something I'll look into. Why the hell not? Let's take a look at James Harden's rebound. So I don't mind Kawhi's over in rebounds. James Harden's under in rebounds in this game. And not too sure on his points prop, to be honest. So I'd probably lean to the over for James Harden points as well. Now we have to look at Zubac. So Zubac had an amazing game 1, and then a pretty good game, just not as good, not enough to get them the win. Now his points line's at 11.5. He's cashed this in both games, 20 and 13 points. 4 of his last 9 against Dallas. On the season, he's hit this line at a 53% hit rate. Now, looking at these 2 games, he's playing 33 minutes a night, which is a lot higher than his season average. In those games, 17 and 12 attempts. The last game, he had 12 attempts and only hit on 42%, which is quite low. He did, however, get to the line a little bit more. So Dallas playing a bit more aggressive on Zubac down low. Now, if we have a look at the season and we filter by the games as Zubac plays at least 33 minutes, what the hell is this? 11 consecutive games. 11 out of 11 games where Zubac plays more than 33 minutes. He's cashed this line with ease, averaging 16.9 points per game. So the over in Zubac points is definitely one that I'm going to be looking at. Now, looking at his rebound prop, 10.5's the line. He's cashed this in both games, 15 and 12 boards against the Dallas Mavericks. He's hit this in 3 of his last 9 against them, which is not great. If you look at his last 10, 7 of his last 10. Now, we'll play around with the same filters on the season. Filter out his games where he plays at least 33 minutes. And you can see he's cashed this in 7 out of his last 11 games where he plays at least 33 minutes. 2 games against Dallas. I'm just checking to see who he's gone under. Sacramento, Orlando, Portland, Houston. So none of these teams really have bigs that are going to stretch the floor and take him out of position. So what I'm going to do is I'll have this down as a lean. I do like the points prop a little bit better. The rebound side is dependent. The rebound side is dependent on people from both teams missing a lot of shots. But if it is a higher scoring game than the ones we have seen, where there's 210 points scored, then Zubac's points doesn't look like such a bad option. Where the rebounds are dependent on other things happening, you just got to put the ball in the bucket. So yeah, probably like the points prop a lot. I do like the points prop a lot more than the rebounds one, but they both look like a great look. Now let's have a look at Paul George. PG, his points line is 20.5. He's cashed this in both games. 5 out of his last 7 against Dallas, he's got it done, averaging 22 points per game this series. And what's he done in these series? Playing 37 and 36.7 minutes, 20 and 14 shots. So Kawhi comes back and he only takes 14 attempts. His 3-point attempts are down. He got to the free throw line a little bit more. So what we can do is we can muck around with the Kawhi filters with and without Kawhi, and we can also look at the minutes played here for Paul George. So firstly, let's do a with and without Kawhi Leonard comparison. Without Kawhi, he's played 12 games this season, 22.4 points per game. And then if we go with Kawhi, a bigger sample size, averaging 22.5 points per game this season. So PG still averaging above this line with and without Kawhi. Now, if we do the same filters, but we say, how many minutes was it? I forgot. 36 or 37, was it? He played 40. Actually, no, it's 36. Okay. 36 minutes. So in games where Paul George plays with Kawhi and he gets at least 36 minutes, he's covered this line in 8 of his last 10 games. And then if we look at the games without Kawhi, when he gets a similar number of minutes, he's cashed in all of them, 27.7 points per game. So the PG points prop doesn't look too bad. It looks a lot better if Kawhi's not there. If Kawhi's not there, this line's about 24.5, and suddenly that hit rate looks a little bit different. So let me go back to with Kawhi, because we know Kawhi's playing, and PG's averaging 25.3 points per game with Kawhi when he plays at least 36 minutes in a game. So yeah, the opportunity is going to be there. I think the one thing you have to factor in is that this is the playoffs, right? It is the playoffs. Defenses do get a little bit better. Dallas was a great defending team towards the back end of the season. Dallas are also favorites in this one. So the numbers look good for Paul George here, but I don't think I'm willing to take it, because my new approach is to find reasons why I shouldn't take the bet, because too often times I'm just looking, not always looking for a reason, but I can see the good things about a bet, like I do on this Paul George play. But to protect my bankroll, because this playoffs has been quite expensive for me, I'm going to look for reasons not to take a bet. And if I can see them, then I'll probably lean against them. But the PG one, if this was me yesterday, I'd be all over it. But me today, I'm a little bit hesitant. Now, looking at his assist prop, 4 out of his last 10 games, he's covered it. So far this series, 3 assists and 4 assists against the Dallas Mavericks, covering in 5 out of his last 7. The 3.5, though, is plus money. And if we play around with the same filters where PG gets at least 36 minutes a night, because that's what he's getting in the playoffs, he's hit this in 15 of 33, averaging 3.9 assists. So the odds there are not great, and we do have Kawhi Leonard and Dallas expected to win. Might be difficult for PG to get these assists. Jumping into his rebound numbers, 4.5 boards, 4 of his last 10, 6 rebounds in the first game, then 2 rebounds in the second. So that's not overly convincing. Kawhi did rebound well. Paul George did not. So yeah, I'm not loving the rebound pick here for Paul George. He's more than capable of it, but I can't see any obvious reasons as to why he gets them. The last one I want to look at for the Clippers is Russell Westbrook, purely because his lines are low. So the line's at 7.5 for his points, 13 in the first game, 7 in the second game when Kawhi returned. In that game, he's played 23 and 24 minutes in both of those games. He only shot 2 for 9 in that last game against Dallas, so he shot terribly, 22%, but the volume is very good for him to take 9 shots. You only need him to make 4 of them, but he might get to the free line as well. So looking at that, he has made a 3-pointer in each of those games, which helps. Not getting to the free throw line very much, but he did go 2 for 2 from the line. So I think there's a definite upside for his points prop here, the over 7.5. What we could do is muck around with the filters, and let's look at his minutes real quick. So minutes, 23 and 24. So let's say we play with a filter for Russell Westbrook this season, where he plays 20 to 25 minutes. Bless me. All right, Westbrook between 20 and 25 minutes. He's covered this line in 15 of 16 games. You see what I'm saying? That last game, very poor shooting percentage from Russ. In these games, he's shooting 48% from the field, the ones I have filtered, and he's still making a free throw or two. So lowest field goal percentage he's had in all games where he's played 20 to 25 minutes. So the Westbrook points prop looks pretty arousing, I got to tell you. So I'll add that to my short list as well. The next play to look through is his assist numbers. Now let's take a look. 3.5's the line. He had 4 assists in the first game, 3 assists in the second. On the season, what's he hitting this at? 54%. So that's not overly convincing. Let's muck around with Westbrook when he plays 20 to 25 minutes. What can we see? So he's covered this in 8 of 16 games. So it's not overly impressive, to be honest. So the assist prop, I don't necessarily like too much. Yeah, he's had 3 games against Dallas playing this volume of minutes, and he's finished on 3 assists. Actually 4 games. So he's gone under 3 times. He's cashed the over once on his assists. So probably avoid that one. The rebound prop was the first one that came to my mind when I thought of Mr. Westbrook. So let's just take a look at that. He had 9 rebounds in that last game, which is crazy. 4 rebounds in the first game. So covering this line both times. We look at, again, same filters. Westbrook between 20 and 25 minutes. What do we see? Now, Russ has covered this in 12 of 16 games, averaging 4.8 rebounds. He's played Dallas 4 times, with that playing the same number of minutes, between 20 and 25 minutes. And he's averaging 6 rebounds. So 5, 6, 4, and 9. So the rebound numbers looking great there for Russell Westbrook. What you could look at is his points plus rebounds, because I don't mind the points. And you can see he's covered that in 5 consecutive games against Dallas. On the season, he's covered this at a 77% hit rate. And if we look at the games where he's played between 20 and 25 minutes, he has covered this line in 16 of 16 games, averaging 16.6 points and rebounds. So I think I might take that angle, just in case he does have a poor shooting night like he did in that last game, and just collects a whole lot of boards. So that's what I'm thinking for that one. Russell Westbrook, minus 110. Let's go, baby. All right, let's jump into these Dallas Mavericks. So Gafford game time decision. I think he brings the points on a little bit closer, makes Zubac a little bit more dangerous. But let's get into those key players. I think there's really just 3 players I would really look at for this Dallas team. Starting with my man Luka. So his points line 33.5. Hasn't covered that yet this series. 33 in game 1, 32 in game 2. He's covered in 3 out of his last 8 against the Clippers. Looking at these 2 games, what do we see? 42.4 and then 45 minutes. So the minutes are going to be there. The shots are going to be there. 26 attempts in both games from 3-point range, 33% and 36%. But he's made 5 3-pointers. He's not getting to the line as much as he normally would, though. Refs putting their whistle away. But on the volume alone, it doesn't look like such a bad play to take his over, because he hasn't had a game where he shot the ball extremely well yet. So you could argue that he's due. Given the volume of 3-pointers, you could look at his line, but that line's at 4.5, which is pretty wild. So yeah, I'm not loving this too much for Luka, but look, I normally don't like Luka props because they're way too high for my liking. So the points prop, first game at home though, so I wonder what his home and away splits look like. He is the key scorer here. At home, looking points. At home, he's averaging 34.21 points per game. Season 33.82 games. So, yeah, it does score a little bit more at home, but yeah, it's a pretty significant difference actually. So at home, he covers this line at a 59% hit rate. On the season, he covers this at 50%, which means on the road, he's probably in the low 40s. So Luka at home over 33.5 points. I'm going to take a look at that because they can't possibly keep slowing him down. 33 and 32 points is slowing Luka down. So despite him only scoring 33 and 32, line set at 33.5. So there could be a little bit of something in that. So I'll look into that. Luka's assists. Let's take a look. 9.5 to the line. He's had 6 and 9 assists in the 2 games against the Clippers so far this season. A lot of minutes. Potential assists aren't very high for him. They're either blitzing him or letting him go to work by the looks of it. Now, he's hit this line in 51% of games this season. If we have a look at his home games, he's hit this at a 50% rate as well. So his hit rate doesn't necessarily improve when he's at home. 9.1 as an average at home, and then on the season. And so, yeah, it's a very marginal difference if you're looking at his assists home and away. Hasn't got it done in the last 2. So, yeah, I'd be a little bit hesitant taking the over, but by no means am I saying to take the under. Looking at his rebounds, a 9.5 to line there, 6 of his last 10, 2 different rebounding games in this series, 13 in game 1, and then only 6 in game 2. I think I spoke about this after game 2, because I took Luka's rebounds in game 2. after watching that game, the noticeable difference that I found was that Luka was out there contesting 3-point shots. Like he was closing out like a madman, doing what you're supposed to do. What that meant statistically is he wasn't getting a lot of rebounds because he was out there contesting shots, right? He was part of the reason why James Harden didn't shoot so well in that second game. And if Dallas is serious about winning this series, we need to see more of that from Luka, which means you're not going to see as many defensive rebounds as he normally does. So that 6 rebound effort was him not trying. It wasn't him being shit. It was honestly him playing proper defense and somebody else was picking up those boards. So yeah, if he does it again, yeah, I'm definitely leaning to the under on his rebounds based on what I saw, but I can't guarantee he comes out with that same mindset. So, yeah, I'd be a little bit cautious for anyone looking at taking triple doubles. If you're taking triple doubles, you're most likely taking the Clippers to win. I wonder what that's paying. Luka for a triple double, Clippers to win. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the rebound line. Let's get into my man, Kyrie Leonard. Kyrie Irving. God damn, it's late. Kyrie Irving, his points line 24.5. So far this season, 31 and 23 in the series so far against the Clippers. He's covered this line in 3 of his last 5 games against them. And a quick look at his last 10, he's covered in 7 out of his last 10. So somewhat consistent with his form. But let's take a closer look at the last 2 games we just saw. 39 and 42 minutes played. Shot the ball 18 times in both games. In the most recent game, he only shot 44% from the field. It was a low-scoring game where a lot of people seem to struggle. 44% from the field, didn't get to the free throw line as much. He did shoot well from downtown, 4 from 8. So this is Kyrie Irving, somewhat efficient out there. Yeah, I've been liking his points. I liked his points prop in the last game, which didn't deliver, but I mainly took it because he delivered for me in that first one. Now he's back at home. I wonder what his season splits look like, home and away. So let's have a quick look. I'll check this out for you. So he's averaging 25.68 points on the season. If we look at the home games, that goes up to 27.3. So it's a considerable jump, 2 points higher at home than he does away. But given that I do like Luka's points at home, do we see Luka and Kyrie go over at the same time? Is that a real possibility? Potentially. But I'll take a look at Kyrie's points line. I don't mind it. The efficiency is great. I'd like to see a bit more volume, to be honest. He's only taking 18 shots per game in the playoffs, whereas we saw a lot of games where he was shooting over 20 times this season. So, yeah, Kyrie might be required to turn it on. And if he does, this points line's looking delish. I think one of the best players we've seen lately is his rebound prop. So the line's at 4.5. He's covered it in both games. If you tailed me, I actually took him for 25 points and 7 rebounds in the first game, which cashed. His line was still at 4.5 by the time the second game started, and he got 6. So I don't know. My thought process is, do we just go back and take it again? Because if Luka's closing out shots, someone's going to get these loose boards. I think that's a lot of Kyrie and maybe PJ Washington. His rebound prop line has dropped though to 4.5 points, but I like the pick. It might be something that we parlay together with something, to keep it, to reduce a bit of that vig. But yeah, he's been rebounding well. What can I say? 6 of his last 10 games in head-to-head matchups. He's now covered in 4 consecutive games against the Clippers. 6 rebounds in all of them. Now, this is a game where Dallas are favorites to win, meaning the Clippers are favorites to miss more shots, which means Kyrie should have more rebounds, right? So I don't hate this. I don't mind the 4.5 rebounds. Taking a look at his assists, 4.5. He's gone under in 4 consecutive games against the Clippers. And in his last 10, 3 of his last 10. On the season, he's covered at 55%. And in home games, my bad. Wrong filter. On the season at home, he's covered at 59%. 5.2 is an average. On the road, it drops down. So on the season, he's 55. So he does get more assists when he's at home, although he's played some home games against the Clippers this year and he finished on only 3 assists in each of those games. So I can't help but to lean to the under here for Kyrie's assists, but I do think the rebounds are the better play. We might be able to cook up a value play here with Kyrie, even to play it safe. We'll drop his points down a bit, maybe take him for 20 points, 5 rebounds, and under 5 assists perhaps. We'll probably get plus 300 to 400 odds for that. So we'll see where I land, but I do like his over in rebounds and definitely leaning the under in his assists. But I think the rebound play is more likely, but also the odds aren't as good. Let's take a look at PJ Washington. Now, PJ Washington, his points props 11.5. He's covered in one of the 2 games. So 11 in game 1 and then 18 points in game 2. He's covered in 7 of his last 10 games. He's only played the Clippers twice, and that's been in the playoffs. So let's dive into these games a little bit more. 36.9 and 35.3 minutes per game. Took 10 shot attempts in both games. 3-pointers, he's made 2 and 3, so he's shooting 45% if you average out the 2 games. So PJ Washington, he's going to find himself wide open a little bit more. Got to the free throw line in that last game, so somewhat aggressive. So look, I'm not overly keen on taking PJ Washington. I've won a lot of money off him, and I've also lost a lot of money purely because his field goal percentage is wildly inconsistent. He's at home though, so that is a benefit for the Dallas Mavericks, you would assume. So let's have a quick look at what he does at home. It's going to be a little bit messy though because he got traded mid-season, but yeah, at home he's hit this at a 66% rate, on the season 56% rate. But yeah, you've got Charlotte home games all in the mix of that, so you'd have to use a different tool to dive in a little bit deeper. But I'm just letting you know I'm not overly keen on the points prop here for PJ Washington. If we look at his rebounds though, in the 2 games so far, 7 rebounds in game 1, 6 rebounds in game 2. The line's set at 5.5. So yeah, the minutes are definitely there, 36 and 35 minutes. I think he's the primary defender on Kawhi Leonard as well. But PJ Washington still getting it done rebound-wise. With no Gafford, it might fall onto someone like PJ Washington to improve on the glass. But I think Gafford might play. But yeah, honestly, I would lean to the over here for PJ Washington rebounds, but not with a tremendous amount of confidence. But I'll definitely take a look at it and see what other information I can find on my man. Who else is there? I'm wondering, is there any hidden gems here, given because I know Gafford's been ass all series. I take a look at this. In the 2 games against the Clippers, he scored 3 points in game 1 and then no points in game 2. He only played 14 and 10 minutes. His rebounds, 4.5 to the line, 0 rebounds in 14 minutes, and then 1 rebound when he played 10 minutes. So yeah, Daniel Gafford, I don't know where these lines are being set, but he hasn't been contributing at all. So I don't know how many minutes he's projected to play in this. Let me take a look at what his injury is, actually. He's got a bad back, and which is a very important part of your body. And if Zubac's going to be barreling down on you all the time, we might see a lot of Maxi Kleber action. I think given what we've seen, I'll do some research to see whether Daniel Gafford's going to be playing much at all, what his actual status is. But you can get under 10.5 points and rebounds here for Daniel Gafford for even money. So I'll take a look at that, see if we can find what he's projected to play. But yeah, that's a very interesting look. Even if he does play, it's not the easiest matchup here against Zubac anyway, but 10.5 is very low. So I'll take a deeper dive of that. Derek Jones Jr., I wonder what he's been doing this season. All right, he scored 0 points in the first game, 10 points in the second. 17 minutes and then 32 minutes. His line's at 7.5. With Tim Hardaway out, this guy should get a couple extra minutes. He is taking some shots, not too many threes though. So yeah, I'm a little bit hesitant to look at anything for Derek Jones. He is going to get the minutes though. Rebounds, 3.5. So he had 7 rebounds in that last game in his 32.5 minutes. Take a look at the season, right? And we muck around with Derek Jones playing at least 30 minutes a night. What does this tell us? He's played 19 games with at least 30 minutes. He's covered this line in 14 of 19 of those games. So Derek Jones Jr. probably spent a lot of time defending Paul George and James Harden, actually probably Paul George, because I noticed Kyrie was picking up James Harden a lot in that last game. So yeah, there could be some rebound opportunities for Derek Jones Jr. and at plus money, I honestly don't hate it. We just need to see whether he is going to get at least 30 minutes a night, though, because their rotations can be a little bit inconsistent. But Derek Jones Jr., a valuable piece, provided that he's contributing. If he's not getting stops, there's no point having him out there. If they're not running in transition, there's no point of having him there. But Derek Jones Jr., his rebound, I might be able to fuck with that. Let's see where we go. And the other one is Josh Green. So there's no Tim Hardaway Jr. So Josh Green should get some extra run time. His line's at 4.5. What does his minutes look like? Looking at his minutes, yeah, he played 9 and 14 minutes in that last game. If we just have a look at his games without Tim Hardaway Jr., what do we see? He's played 1 game without Tim Hardaway Jr. this season, and he played 31 minutes. So, yeah, Josh Green could get some extra run time. Obviously, Dante Exum's the first man off the bench. If they're running, so who do they have? They'll have Maxi off the bench, Lively off the bench. Josh Green will get a bit of game time as well. And then maybe Hardy. So, yeah, there's a chance here that, yeah, they got Exum as well. Josh Green could get a run. I'm not too sure. The 4.5. Yeah, look. Let's not look for reasons to bet on people, right? Because that's caught me before. So let's jump into the next game. It is getting very late here, so let me power through this. It's Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Phoenix Suns. What do we see? We've got Phoenix 4-point favorites in this game. The line is 206. Grayson Allen is a game time decision, as well as Kyle Anderson. So let's jump into these Timberwolves real quick. Naz Reid, let's have a look at his points and his rebounds prop. So points-wise, line's at 9.5, scored 12 points in game one and then 5 points in the other. Has covered this well against Phoenix in the past 6 of his last 8. Minutes are very low, though, 19 and 16.8 minutes. I guess because Cat is back. If we look at volume, 4 for 10 in the first game, but he only took 5 attempts in the last game. So if he only shoots the ball 5 times, 9.5 is not a great line to look at. But looking at his last 10 games, what's the trend line look like? 7 of his last 10. So he's very capable of hitting this line and exceeding it. But the volume is the thing that concerns me there. Looking at his rebounds, the line's at 3.5. He's gone under in both games against the Suns so far this series, averaging 2 rebounds per game. In head-to-head matchups, has rebounded well in the past against Phoenix, but he was getting a bit more minutes in a lot of these games. But there's a lot of games here where he only got 15 minutes, still finished with 6 boards. But the rebound chance is what I'm probably most concerned with. If Naz Reid is the one out there defending Kevin Durant, it might be difficult for him to get some boards. So, yeah, I'd be a little bit hesitant on that. We also have Karl Anthony Towns, who's been pretty strong since coming back from injury. 19 points in the first game, 12 points in the second. Minutes going down, 26 and 23 minutes. The Timberwolves had a lot of success with their role players in that last game. Now, what do we have for him? Field goal attempts, 9 and 7. So the volume is not there for Cat to score some points. So that makes me lean to the under already. He's getting to the free throw line quite a bit, though. So that will probably make me a bit hesitant to take the under. Looking at his assists, 2.5, 4 in the first game, 1 in the second. Yeah, not overwhelming in his trends against the Phoenix Suns. And to be honest, he's capable of it, but the ball's not going through him anymore. And it's definitely the first option. Looking at his rebounds, the line's at 7.5. He's covered in 5 of his last 10 games. In head-to-head matchups, 4 of his last 7 against Phoenix. Last 2 games against Phoenix, 7 and 8 so far this season in the playoffs. And he's managed to do that with low minutes. So, yeah, I don't know if he's going to get more minutes. So that's my main concern with Karl Anthony Towns. The minutes are trending down. And they're finding success from other places. But they are on the road. So they're probably going to have to lean on a lot more of their seasoned and experienced players to produce. Speaking of seasoned, let's talk about Mike Conley. So Mike Conley's point sign's at 11.5. I did take the over for him in the last game. Cash with ease, 18 points. Did score only 4 points in the first game. But what I did like about Mike Conley was the volume. So in that first game, he took 12 shots and he only made 2 of them. So I was like, yeah, fair enough. You only made 2. Second game, shot 54% from the field, which is a lot higher than you'd probably expect him to shoot. Looking at the season, Mike Conley shoots 45% from the field with only 8.6 attempts. What we've seen so far in this playoffs, he's taking a lot more attempts than he normally would. Normally takes about 9. He's taken 12 and 13. That last game, he also shot 54% from the field, which is 9% higher than what he'd normally shoot. Did make 3 3-pointers as well and added a free throw in there. So I like Mike Conley's points prop if he's going to get this type of volume. The difference in this game is they're now on the road. So he's averaging 11.4 points per game on the season. In away games, Mike Conley, 11.7. So he does see a slight in his averages. So I guess the main thing there is he's not considerably worse. And I didn't think he would be, given him being experienced as he is. So, yeah, the points prop, I'm going to take a look at that. Then the other one could be his assist prop. 5.5 is the line, 7 in the first game, 4 in the second. Traditionally in the past, hasn't got off many assists against the Phoenix Suns. 5.5 is plus money as well in his last 10 games. Has had some games where he's been pretty good at it, but so far in this series, he's split them. I lent to the under. I bet on his under in the first game, and that absolutely blew up in my face. But I didn't expect the Minnesota Timberwolves to win by 25 points. The Suns favorites going into this game. So maybe a little bit harder for Mike Conley to get these assists. So yeah, I prefer not to take that for Mike Conley. Let's see what else we can find. We have to look at Jaden McDaniels. He just had a really big game. So he scored 25 points in that last game after scoring 9 points in the first game. He's 4 of 9 against the Phoenix Suns, only 3 of his last 10. So this line's been lifted, a reaction to that very last game. So he's played 37 and 41 minutes. That last game, he took 17 shots, hit on 59% of them. He's a massive outlier. Even from three, he normally shoots 30% from deep, shot 50% in the last game from 4 attempts. So I wouldn't overreact to the Jaden McDaniels explosion. He could easily come straight back down to earth and score less than 10 points. So I'm not overly keen on it, but he was a really key player in that last game. We've got Rudy Gobert. Now, his point line's at 13.5. He's had some good scoring games as of late. 14 and 18 points in the 2 games so far this playoffs. He's covered in 4 of his last 9 games against Phoenix. So what are we seeing from Rudy? More minutes, 37 and 39.2. He's only taking 6 and 8 attempts, but he's shooting 67 and 75% from the field. He's also got an awesome free throw percentage, 86% from the field, 6 from 7 from the line in both games. So Rudy's scoring quite nicely, 14 and 18, looking at a 16-point average in this series so far for Rudy Gobert. Now, I want to dive in a little bit deeper here because minutes are nice. So we've got a minimum of 37 minutes. If we filter out his games this season, where he's played at least 37 minutes, what do we see? Rudy's covered this in 18 of 27 games, 16.2 points per game as an average. Looks meant to have a difficult matchup here against the Suns. In head-to-head matches, he hasn't. Yeah, these are the only games where he's played a lot of minutes. That's been in the playoffs. So yeah, if you're betting Rudy to go over his points prop, you're really just betting it because he's done it 2 games in a row. Now they're on the road. I expect some sort of regression from some of the Timberwolves players, and Rudy might be one of them. So, yeah, I'm not going to take the points prop, but if you like it, go ahead. Now, looking at his rebound line, 12.5, 16 rebounds in the first game, 9 rebounds in the second. And why did that? What was going on there, actually? So looking at his head-to-head stuff against Phoenix, well, in the second game, you could argue he regressed back to the mean. So the 16 rebounds in game 1, where Phoenix shot the ball terribly and lost by 25, Phoenix were a little bit better. They only lost by 12 in the following game. Rudy came back down, fell on 9 rebounds. So I'd probably lean to the under here for Rudy's rebounds, to be honest. Just if I'm expecting the Suns to play better and the Timberwolves to play a little bit worse, there might be less rebounds available for Rudy Gobert. If we look back at the games this season, what do we see? There was a game here that Phoenix won by 19 points. He only had 7 boards. In this game, when Phoenix won by 10, he only had 6 boards. In the first game this season, where Phoenix won by 18 points, he only had 8 boards. Now, I'm not expecting a massive blowout like that, but in the games where the Phoenix Suns keep this a lot closer, then it might be a little bit difficult for Rudy. This game here was last season, so I'm not too worried about last season's data. The Phoenix Suns were a different team back then. So, yeah, I'd probably lean to the under here for Rudy's boards, but I need to investigate that a little bit further. But that's an interesting insight. All right, who the hell else have we got in this game? We got Anthony Edwards. Monster in game 1, quiet as a mouse in game 2. 33 points in game 1, 15 points in the second game. His line's at 24.5. He's covered in 3 of his last 9 against Phoenix. 5 of his last 10 on the season. Let's dive into these 2 games. 35.8 minutes in the first game where he scored 33. Got more minutes in the second game, almost 38 minutes, and only scored 15 points. For a massive drop in his volume and his percentage. First game, 58% from the field on 24 shots. Second game, 25% from the field with only 12 shots. And looking at his 3-pointers, volume down and percentage is down as well. He did get to the line, so there was some signs of life and aggression, but it happened. Now, for Anthony Edwards, I'd probably lean to the under once again, but that's just based on my gut feel. Let's see what the numbers say. On the season, he's averaging 25.89 points per game. On the road, he's averaging 26.82 points per game. So there are some players who get better on the road, which is traditionally your superstars who take on more possession, take more shots and things like that. So yeah, Anthony Edwards is one of them, averaging a lot more on the road than he is at home, that's for sure. But now we're in the playoffs. there could be an adjustment for Anthony Edwards, or the Suns could try to do what they can to slow him down. So I haven't bet on Anthony Edwards all season purely because this is what he does. This table right here, let's just look at his last 10. It gives you an indication of what he does. He's either going to crush his line or he's going to fall well below it. He's not one of those guys who consistently gets close, like Kevin Durant, for example. So, and Edwards points, I'm not fucking with that. His assist line's at 5.5. He has cashed this in both games this series, 6 and 8 assists for Anthony Edwards. This is partly why I like Mike Conley under an assist, because Anthony Edwards is doing a lot more of his creating. And so that's cash in both games so far. In head-to-head matchups this season, what do we have? 4, 3, 4, and then the playoffs came, and he's had 6 and 8 assists. So I'd probably do a deeper dive into that. Look at potential assists. I might even watch some video to see how it's. No, I'm not going to watch some video. You know, the problem with watching video on how these players get stats is not only do you learn how they pick up these stats, you start to then expect it to happen again. But this is the part where things change and they make adjustments, right? So that video was just stressing me out. It gave me false hope, false confidence. So I'm not mucking with that. Looking at his rebounds line, what do we have? 9 and 5 rebounds in the 2 games against Phoenix so far. 5 rebounds in that last game, 9 in the first one, 5 of his last 9 against the Suns. On the season, he's averaging 5.48 rebounds per game. So pretty much with a line set. And you get this for plus money too. So I don't mind this. But I'll tell you what could be a better play is looking at his rebounds plus assists. Now, he would have cashed this in both games. Yep. So this is a bet that I had taken right after Karl Anthony Towns got injured. I took this bet for like 3 or 4 games in a row, and it cashed every single time for me. Now, Anthony Edwards, against Phoenix, hasn't cashed this line at all until the 15 in the first game, 13 in the second game. He's going to have the minutes. The opportunities will be there. He'll play at 37 minutes, did we say? 35.8 and 37.9. So if we look at the season and we check out the games where he plays at least 35 minutes, he hits this in 31 of 49 games, averaging 11.7 rebounds and assists. So it doesn't actually give us a massive edge, believe it or not. Looking at the matchup data, though, the Phoenix Suns, bottom 10 in both rebounds and assists allowed to shooting guards on the season. So yeah, definitely something I'm still willing to look at here for Anthony Edwards. I like that better than his assist prop on its own, just because he's hit his assist prop. I just think the fact that he's going to be on the court, he'll get a lot of minutes and opportunities. That might be something that I muck around with. So leaving that one to me. But let's have a look at these Phoenix Suns. So starting with the Nurk, Yusuf Nurkic. His points line is 9.5. It's plus money. He had 9 points in the first game, 10 points in the second. Heading back to Phoenix, is there a chance that he turns this whole thing around? And look, potentially his last home game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, he did score 11 points, if that means anything. Now, Nurkic played 26 and 31 minutes in those last 2 games, 6 attempts and 11 attempts. So, yeah, not really getting a strong read here on Nurkic points. But if we take a look at his assists, for example, I took this in the first game, didn't even get close to it. The last game it cashed and I didn't go near it. So the line's still at 3.5, but it is a little bit juiced. But this is a game where Phoenix are probably expected to play better. Looking at the season data, keeping in mind all these games in the regular season, all 3 of these games right here, Phoenix won those games, and Yusuf Nurkic was a vital part to their offense, getting a whole lot of assists. That first game where Phoenix got blown out, he only finished on 1. And then the second game, he had 4 assists. So I'll take a look into Yusuf Nurkic, the potential assists, and we'll compare those games and see how much of it can align to the script in my mind of how this game goes. I think Phoenix win in a very close game, I would say, at home. And if that's to occur, then Yusuf Nurkic has a good chance to get some assists. Now, his rebound prop, I absolutely fucking got butchered. I took that under in his rebounds in the last game, and he absolutely killed it. 14 rebounds for Yusuf Nurkic. He had 4 rebounds in the last. And this is what you get for Nurkic rebounds. You're going to get 14 to 15, or you're going to get less than 5. Now, I can't tell you whether he goes over or under in this one. I would probably lean to the over because I assume the Suns are going to be better. The Wolves aren't going to be as good, but no confidence from me. But yeah, if you bet on Yusuf Nurkic rebounds, best of luck to you because that's a gamble and a half. We then have Devin Booker. His points line, 25.5. He's 3 of his last 10 games, has struggled so far in this playoffs. 18 and 20 points in the first 2 games. He's cashed in 3 out of his 8 games against the Timberwolves. So he has played them. This is the first game of the season. He scored 31, and then he's gone under in 4 straight games. So let's look into that. 34, 35, 37, and 41 minutes. His attempts are very low. 12, 16, 16, and 13. The volume's just not there. And his percentages are low as well. 25, 38, 31, and 46. So, yeah, all signs point to an under here, right? And if this was yesterday, I would have bet this. But I've made a lot of bets looking at very similar trends. And because we now switch the home court advantage, we're back into Phoenix. There's a chance Devin Booker blows this thing wide open. So, similar to your Jalen Brunsons, your Tyrese Halliburtons, who else has been pretty average? There's probably some others, but there are a few players in this playoffs where you're kind of just waiting for them to buck the trend, right? Donovan Mitchell, great 2 games, and then he had a shit game. Dame Lillard has 2 great games. We're waiting for him to have a bad game. Devin Booker's had 2 terrible games. We're waiting for him to explode. So, and when the court changes, like it has for this particular game, it could be a great moment here. So I'm leaning to the under. I'm not betting it. But I'm just, if you're betting the over, or if you're betting the under, keep that in mind, right? We're just waiting for Devin Booker to explode here. I can't see him scoring 20 points or less in all the games in this series. Looking at his assist prop, though, 6.5's the line, under in that as well. 5 and 5 assists in the 2 games so far this series. 3 of his last 8 games against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, and that has a lot to do with the Phoenix Suns not being able to score points. 95 points in the first game, then 93 points in the second game. Their offense stinks, so something has to change. Rebounds, lines at 4.5. He's gone under in 7 consecutive games against the Timberwolves, which is crazy. 7 consecutive games with D-Book. Now, yeah, if I was looking at this, I would be looking at his rebounds and assists and looking at the under on that. So, because that has delivered for us quite well in these 2 games in the playoffs. But again, you're just waiting for Devin Booker to explode, right? Well, I'm waiting for him to explode, and I don't want to be on the losing end when he finally does. So, yeah, I'm too hesitant to take any bets on Devin Booker. We then got Kevin Durantula, easy money sniper. His point signs at 26.5 points, despite only scoring 18 points in that last game against Minnesota. At least Kevin Durant has had a good game in this series. 31 points in the first game. Then he had the 18 where everybody sucked. And he's getting a lot of minutes, 38 and 41 minutes, 17 and 15 shots. So not a high volume of shots, but he is getting to the line quite well. And he's not shooting too many threes. So it could be difficult to take a points prop for a lot of these Phoenix Suns players, to be honest, because they desperately need points, right? But they've created a team to score points, but this Timberwolves team has been slowing their asses down. But it is a home game, switching things up. You never know. Someone from Phoenix can just come out red hot, and it might not be any of the big 3. It could be someone like Grayson Allen scoring 15 and 20 points. So, yeah, I can't take any of the points props here with any confidence. I'm thinking about a potential rebounds and assists under for Kevin Durant. So you can see it here. His assist line's at 3.5. He's had 1 assist in the first game, 2 assists in the second. Now, we do expect improvement from Phoenix here. So, yeah, he might get an extra assist or 2, but his potential assists aren't great. The assist part, where's his rebound? Here it is. His rebound line is 6.5, same as it was in the last game. I took the 6.5 and he hooked me, finished on the 6. Minus 105 odds. So this might be something I could get around though. Surely he can get 7 in this game if Phoenix are to be better. Now, looking at the head-to-head numbers, this season, he hasn't necessarily rebounded that well against the Timberwolves either. So, yeah, if I look at rebounds and assists for Kevin Durant, and we muck around with the under. So, in his last 3 games, he's gone under his rebounds and assists. In his first 3 games against Minnesota, he went over them. So, yeah, I don't have great feelings about it. Let's have a look at Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal points line, 17.5 points. He's covered in 1 of 4 games against the Timberwolves. What did we see in the last 2 games? He's getting some minutes, 38, 37 and 42 minutes, 10 and 17 shots. So he lifted the volume up in the last game, but his shot percentage went down. That's the line, 17.5 points at home. He probably could be the man to do it, to be honest. He's done it to them once before. This was before the playoffs. Scored 36 points. So assists, 5.5. I did like his assist in the last one. I had it as a lean and I didn't take it. He's now cashed his assist line in 2 consecutive games against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the question is, can he do it for a third? So I've seen with a lot of games so far in these playoff series, a lot of people aren't doing the same shit for 3 games in a row. So just because they've hit it twice doesn't mean they're going to do it third. That's one thing that I learned today. So yeah, even though he's hit the number, I think you need to find more reasons to take this bet. You need to look in potential assists and all that type of shit. But showing you the numbers, he's hit in 4 of his last 10, and he has hit in both games this playoff series. He's hit in 2 of his last 4 games against Minnesota. Now, looking at his rebound line, it's 4.5. He's cashed in only 1 of 4 games against the Minnesota Timberwolves so far in the playoffs, 2 and 4 rebounds in the 2 games. But yeah, I think the thought process here is the line set at 4.5 for a reason, right? He's more than capable of hitting it. Against the Timberwolves, he's hit it before with 6. First game, he only had 3, but he only played 26 minutes in that game. So if you're liking Phoenix to win, you're not minding something like Bradley Beal to go over his rebound line, right? Because he's shown in the past 10 games, take a look, a lot of games where he's covered this rebound line. Fortunately, these last 2 games against Minnesota, they've been on the losing end, and there's not many rebounds available for him. So if you think the Suns can switch it up, if you've got a good read on the game, then a play like this isn't so bad. Now, final reminder about the watch party. Come join. Video link in this description. It's Playback TV. Sign up. It is completely free. You don't have to pay a damn thing. Sign up to Playback TV. Jump into my room, my virtual room, not my actual room. Jump in. Watch the game with me. I'll be on stage. We can ride bets together. You can chat to me, or you can chat to me. You can watch me cry if my bets lose, or you can laugh whilst I do it. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Clippers versus Dallas. The link's in the video description below. If you want to see more videos from me, just click on this video right here. Other than that, I'll catch you lads in the next one. Good luck.
Sub to the channel cause your boy's getting busy. See a line from the west side of Sydney. We've got the free picks and the juice and the daily. It's all free, you don't even have to pay me.